Order at 7 p.m. Roll call from right to left.
Kurt Peterson, alternate.
Michael Estrina.
Rose Valletta, chair.
Jack Sterry.
Bob Casati.
Okay. Tonight I'll be seating Kurt Peterson as a regular voting member. Acceptance of the agenda. If I could have a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved, Jack Sterry.
Second, Michael Estrina.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. At the last meeting, we kept the public hearing open, so we're going to go right into the public hearing. I will read the application once again.
Can I interrupt for a minute? Is this a closed, open, or is
No,
it
it was
a-
it remained open.
We never closed
it.
We never closed.
Correct.
I wanted to, I
Okay.
couldn't remember, to be
Okay.
honest with you. I was here, but I couldn't remember if we were closed or not.
Okay, application number 21-03, 65 Great Hill Road, request for a variance to zoning regulations table 4.2.1 to locate the front right corner of a 16 by 24-foot workshop/barn, 17 feet from the side yard where 25 feet is required, and the back right corner 21 feet from the side yard where 25 feet is required. Application property of Curtis and Stephanie Tatro, assessors map 62, lot 7, zone RR. This is continued from 6/9/22 meeting, and I just want to note that the application notice, legal notice, is 17 feet from the side yard, and the map, the plat map shows that it's 15 feet from the side yard. So we're going to open, the public hearing is open, and I'd just like to have Curtis or Stephanie just basically get up and reiterate what you said last time, so to refresh our memory. Make a note that Cynthia Roman has joined us in the meeting.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to finalize the items held open from the June 9th meeting. As I'm sure you recall from the meeting on June 9th, we presented the background related to our application for a variance to zoning regulation table 4.2.1. We discussed our methods for measuring and locating the structure. We noted that the proposed placement avoided the hardship created by the leach fields. It didn't interfere with the underground sprinkler system, was a reasonable distance from the in-ground pool, and in a relatively flat area of the yard. Jack Sterry came to our house and inspected the proposed site, noting it was a good spot. Bob Casati was also kind enough to come and inspect the site and seemed to be in agreement with Mr. Sterry. We'd like to take this opportunity tonight to thank Jack and Bob for their personal visit, for their service to the board, and for taking the initiative to visit the site and to discuss and gather information above and beyond what was in the application and other documents presented at the June 9th meeting. At that meeting, we also addressed questions from one of the committee members on locating the gravel foundation within 5 feet of the leach fields. We're planning on putting an 8-inch deep gravel base under the workshop, which would entail digging down as much as 6 to 8 inches. Given this significant depth, we felt it was more prudent to be at least 10 feet from the leach field. 10 feet is a requirement if we were to put in a full frost wall for the building. Having addressed these hardship questions, we then discussed questions on the order of application procedure. Mike D'Amato had appeared via video and satisfactorily cleared up the issue, indicating that there was no obligation that we request a permit first. There were significant lingering concerns from Chairwoman Aletta, who felt that we were guessing where the property line was, despite our efforts at indicating where it is. At the time of the initial meeting, we had used the documents that were on file in the land use office. As the house was built in 1968, there was not a modern A2 on file in the land use department. We went looking, we tried to find a surveyor. I finally found one who would agree to do the survey, but he wanted $4,200 to survey the property, and he had no idea when he would be able to commit to get the work done. After the initial meeting, we worked extensively with Dan Beret and to work to refine the measurements to the satisfaction of the board and the chairwoman. We discovered with Dan's help and with Liz Tripp's help that there was an A2 survey on file in the town clerk's office. We obtained a copy of this survey and confirmed the scaling on it was accurate. Dan then came out to our house to assist us in getting accurate measurements, which included climbing through bushes and thorns. Dan met with me to make sure that the measurements were correct and really worked with us to present the paperwork that you have tonight, which is the drawing that I think all of you have in front of you. My husband and I understand that Dan is new to the town of Portland, and our experience with him has been exceptional. I really think he is a valuable asset to the town, and I hope that he stays for many years to come. We really would like to thank him publicly for his efforts in making Town Hall an agreeable place to work. Is that an adequate
Oh,
summary?
that's very, very adequate. That's a lot of information. Now, tonight you presented a plat map with the correct boundary lines according to town hall records, correct? Okay. We also received a letter dated July 2nd. I don't know what the stamp says. It could be July 20th. It could 28th. I'm not sure, but the letter is from
July
Max.
20th, yes.
Okay. Max Nagy and Abby Downs, that I'm sure everyone has read. Okay, does anyone have any questions?
I visited that site, separate from John, and I think, for me, I think the site's proper. I think the building has no foundation, so I think it's a carefree building, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So a carefree building means you can move it, you can sell it. It's not really a permanent building. So therefore, I'm in full agreement with what they're trying to do. And I think it'd be an asset for them and for us.
Thank you.
Mike, do you have anything?
With the new map, I'm fine.
Thank you.
Kurt, any questions? Bob? So, briefly, what is your hardship?
The hardship is really our leach field. The leach field is only a year and a half old, and we don't want to get as close to it as the zoning laws would allow. I spoke to the gentleman who installed it for us, and he said that if we were to drive heavy equipment over the leach field, it would most certainly damage it beyond repair. It's not meant to carry the weight of the equipment that's necessary to dig the 6 or 8 inch foundation that we need for the building. We also have an underground sprinkler system that we just installed last year, and the heavy equipment would have to drive over the sprinkler system and most likely damage that as well.
I do have a question. This is a prefab being delivered by
Yes, Carefree.
a third party
Right.
builder.
Carefree Buildings
Is-
based in Colchester. Yep.
Is that gonna make any difference going over the leases with their equipment?
The way they would come in the property, the leach field, where we propose to position the building, they would not have to cross the leach field
That's all I need.
to build the building.
That was my question. I was
Yep.
more concerned for you than, you know.
Yep, thank you.
Does this building permit come to you fully assembled, right?
They will, because it's so large, they're actually going to build it on site.
Okay.
Yep. I think it comes in pieces, but they'll build it on site.
Jack, can you just speak up? Sharon's having a hard time hearing you.
It's the fan. It's so loud, I can't hear what you're saying, Jack, but speak up.
Okay.
Please.
I just asked her, does the building come in one piece, two pieces, many pieces? And she indicated it comes in multiple sections. And I've been out to Carefree, I've looked at all their stuff. I've talked to the owner, he's dead now. And I think they put out a good product. And as I say, the product, if they should get tired of it, they can move it, because there's no foundation under it. So it's really a temporary building, basically. And that's why I'm for it. I think it's a good idea.
Did the town explain to you what a hardship is?
Yes, Dan gave me a piece of paperwork that explains a variance. It's what a variance is, yes. And it's on it, it says what is a hardship. And it says a hardship is a particular or unique feature of a particular piece of property that prevents the landowner from making a reasonable use of the property in conformance with the existing zoning regulations.
Correct. You are correct. And the hardship has nothing to do with personal circumstances of the landowner. Unique means you're different from any other neighbors within a reasonable area. Financial considerations are not considered a valid reason for issuing a variance. Self-created hardship is not sufficient grounds for granting a variance. And disappointment in the property does not constitute an exceptional difficulty or unusual hardship. There's other reasons I'm not going to go into. But so what you're saying is your hardship is because of your septic system, correct?
Yes,
And also your sprinkler system
yes.
is in the way.
We did look at another location on the property for placement of the building behind the leach field. However, that particular piece of the property, because it's in the back of the yard and the setback rules are 50 feet, not 25, virtually the entire building would have been within the setback range. And the slope on that particular part of the property is not conducive to having the building there.
Okay. So any more questions before we close the public hearing?
Can I just ask a question about the irrigation system?
Sure.
It was just, is it not possible to move part of it? I know that I'm completely ignorant and uninformed, but if you had to like move the section of it, then you have to ride over it, it's not possible to do that?
Well, I'm sure that we could move part of the irrigation system if we needed to. That would entail digging up I mean, I'm sure our lawn is like everybody else's these days. It's not in spectacular shape, even though we have a sprinkler system. But we would have to rip the yard out to move that part of the sprinkler system and then just reconfigure it. But it is possible. Not ideal, but possible.
I would like to make a motion that we close the meeting, so we can discuss it.
Okay. You can sit down.
So moved, second.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor of closing the public hearing? Say
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the first thing we have is, I think the first thing we have is, we have a drawing with 15 feet and a legal notice of 17 feet. So if we were to accept the application, I would strongly suggest we determine what we're going to give them. Is it going to be located 15 feet from the property line, 16 feet from the property line, 17 feet from the property line, 21 feet from the property line? Let's open discussion on that. Right now, I would say we should go with the,
What is legal? We go by
the
the
legal notice is what's printed in the paper. This way all neighbors, anyone in the public would know. They know what we're voting on, what the application is.
I would suggest that we go with a legal notice, because that's what we're voting on. We can't ad lib to any of this. And I think for me, we're spending too much time on this project.
What do you think, Bob?
I think we're spending too much time on it too.
Well,
I mean, it
that's why
says
we-
down here,
that's why-
it says 17 feet.
Right, it says
So
17. So
that's what-
17 should
that's-
be, okay.
That's what it's gonna be, right?
I would suggest, yes, to go with the legal notice.
I agree. Go with legal notice.
So, on board, I mean, that's what the agreement was, right from the beginning, what's in the paper. Gonna go.
Okay, so that would be what, 8 feet? 8 feet into the side yard. Is there any more discussion?
I would suggest we vote right now.
Making a motion?
Make a motion, we vote on the application right now.
Second, Bob Casati.
Okay. All in-
Second time we've heard it.
Are we voting on, based on their hardship? Because I think we have to.
The hardship was stated as the septic system prevented full use of the rear yard.
Correct.
Um,
Just want to make sure that
Right.
we're,
Yeah, I'm not going to include the sprinkler system because that
Yeah,
really,
that's-
my opinion, that's not a hardship.
that's not a hardship.
That's
Part
a-
of the hardship. The hardship is the leaching field and the septic, which are part of the same. So
Right, so it's really the septic system.
just want to make sure we're clear in our.
Okay, so I'll read the motion. The motion is to approve application 21-0365 Great Hill Road, request for a variance to section 4.2.1, minimum side yard to locate a 16 by 24-foot workshop/barn, 17 feet from the side yard where 25 feet is required. Application and property of Stephanie and Curtis Tatro, assessors map 62, lot 7, zone RR, and based on drawings, pictures, and other information submitted with the application, testimony provided in the following hardship is the septic system is located in an area that prevents full use of the rear yard. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Motion carries. So at this point, you have to go back to planning and zoning, and Dan will fill you in on what the next step is. Okay?
Thank you.
What's your name? Over here? Okay, new business. I think we're gonna talk about, well, actually, that was old business. We don't have any new business. Do we have any new business? No new business? Okay, we're gonna talk.
Well, I just
Okay.
wanted to, and of course, maybe it's my first thing back, but I know that she was mentioning Dan being new.
Yeah, he's not new. He's old.
He's old.
Second go around.
Second.
Yeah.
Well, he was in a different position, but good to have you, Dan.
Okay, so, under old business, we're gonna look at the minutes. There was a couple of corrections, and it was on page 2, paragraph 3. It says, towards the bottom, it says they need to go to P and Z before BPA. Should be ZBA. Okay. And Cynthia Roman was present. Victoria Short was not, which is correct. Does anyone see any other corrections? So I'll just, I'll make the motion to amend the minutes.
Second?
Again. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. So, our next thing is, we had some questions for Carrie Olson. And there was I submitted a question about the time limit on a permit. And what I'm told from Dan is that when a permit is issued, if they need a variance, they ask if they want to seek a variance. If they say they're not, then there's an administrative permit, right? To deny the permit.
And go for that voting increase, so we can.
Had to get me on
You look good.
camera. So I did speak with Carrie on that because she was a little confused. So in this case, the applicant did not submit an administrative permit. They went and saw Mike or John. I think it was Mike in this case. And he indicated that they did need a variance. In conversation with Rose, she asked about the appeal process in that case if they had submitted a permit. If they didn't agree with the fact that they needed a variance, they could have submitted an administrative permit. At that point, the enforcement officer or myself at the time could have indicated on the permit that it needed a variance, and they could have appealed that decision to the body. If the appeal came back, they could then deny it at that point. Vice versa, with this variance process, if you had denied that, we would have then denied an administrative permit if that had come in. So that kind of would have been the workflow on that particular issue.
Okay. So someone walks into the office looking for a permit for whatever reason, and the department says, you'll have to seek a variance to get approval. They say, okay, I'll go to ZBA and try to appeal it, and then that's one path. And the second path is, no, I'm not going, and that's when the administrative permit is issued with the denial, that they can come and appeal. So they can appeal the decision. And then as we know, we become the person issuing the permit. And we did that just a few months ago, I believe. So, the second question that I submitted was on behalf of Joan Geisman is, can we go to the property? If we go to the property, can we speak with the homeowner or the neighbors why we're there? And this is what she writes. I'm aware of nothing that prohibits a ZBA member from visiting the site or driving by. If they go on the property, they need the owner's permission first. If a quorum of the board goes together, it needs to be noticed in advance like any other public meeting of the ZBA. As for talking to the applicant or others, that is a big no-no. Any ZBA member that is engaged in any discussions with the applicant or others, or have gone to the site, should state clearly on the record what transpired and what was said. Even that may not survive a challenge later in court, but it helps. So this is basically, you can drive by the property, but once you start engaging with the property owner, you're making determinations that others don't have the privilege to have. It's not recorded. You're forming an opinion or before the hearing, and it should not be done. Am I correct, Dan?
Well, yeah, all the conversation and discussion regarding any particular application should be held in that public hearing, not outside that public hearing. Even if, say, like with this case, there was a continuance, once the public hearing, that portion of a public hearing has concluded, you shouldn't, be discussing the application among yourselves or anything like that. We want to make sure everything's on the record in a public forum, in public setting.
Even during the continuance, can you go back out there yet again or no?
You could go back out there to view the site again.
Okay.
If the board wanted to do, say, a site walk, that's certainly a possibility if the whole board felt it was necessary to go. But again, you shouldn't be speaking with the applicant and taking in information that the rest of the board or the public is not privileged to.
So going to the applicant, you can knock on the door and say, Michael Estrina, zoning board of appeals, may I look at the location? That should be the end of it.
Well, yeah, they could point out the area, I think,
But no
like
conversation.
a location question, like, where is this going? And they could say here. And
Okay.
you can look at the site, but yeah, you shouldn't be asking any substantive questions at all. Or having, much interaction about the application. You can certainly exchange pleasantries, but anything of substance should be discussed in a public hearing forum.
Yeah, I think what she's saying is you really should not do that, because it could be challenged in court. And that's where we get into trouble.
It certainly could be, but I think as long as you stick to looking at the lay of the land, you should be all right. And noting that for the record that you did go out there, I think it's important as well.
Well, when a person applies for a variance, they put a notice on their front lawn, right? A sign. So isn't that sign for any of the public to be interested in what's going on in their neighborhood or not their neighborhood?
So that's to give the entire town notice. Anybody who might have a vested interest in that, certainly.
Any individual.
Right, but I don't think any individual is going to be allowed on that person's property. And I don't think we should encourage, random people to go visit that. I think it might be appropriate for you if you think it's necessary to look at the site. But again, it's just to look at the maybe the topography and the location in the real world. You should not be having any discussion with the applicant regarding, any merits of their application or anything like that.
What about when we take a picture of the site?
You could certainly, you could take a picture for your own, study,
Yep.
but I also think that picture should then be added to the record so that the public and anybody, any other board members, could view that. But you really want to make your decision based off the evidence from the record that's been provided by the applicant. That's really the window that you're looking through to make your
So
decision.
basically no then, because then it could be,
Basically,
if something
no.
happens, then they're gonna take your phone, your cell phone, in court and say you should. If something happens.
I mean, they certainly could subpoena your cell phone, yeah.
Okay. Just to-
Put this to fucking days and they go look at this shit. That's a
So
problem.
basically stick to what is presented to you during the
Yeah, I certainly don't think a drive-by is by any means a bad idea if you can glean that evidence, but it's better not to have interaction with the homeowner.
Okay. All right, so the only other thing is correspondence, which is our newsletter. Hopefully, everybody will get a chance to read it. It's always interesting. So I see no public members out there, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Jack Sterry.
Is there anybody on the chat?
Is there anybody on the chat?
No, not a chat.
Okay. Okay, motion on the floor to adjourn.
Second, Michael Flannery.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned at 7:34.
I have 32.
32.
I think you're running fast.
Phone says 32.